So in today's session, we will spend time to understand some preliminary concepts on value-added tax, popularly known as VAT. Then last half an hour or less than that, we will try to use to share the ideas what we will do in part 2 of term paper, which is related to company assessment, which we completed in last class. So let me open the whiteboard first, then I will begin the recording, then I will talk about value-added tax. Is my sound loud enough to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, value-added tax, you are familiar with these concepts before taking the business taxation course, because we have to pay VAT irrespective of our income level, because VAT is not dependent on income, rather VAT is dependent on the expenditure. So if we engage in making expenditure on which VAT is applicable, probably all of us have experienced paying VAT. So many of us try to avoid paying VAT by changing our transaction pattern or by avoiding the recording of transaction. So you will get such kind of experience also when you will go for transaction, when you will go for making transactions in shopping or in other shops. We all have tendency to avoid the recording so that the VAT, it can be skipped, VAT payment can be skipped. So before going for those kind of discussion furthermore, let me tell you the very basic concept of VAT. The tax which is paid on the value addition. And another thing is that what I like to add with your very introduction class, can you recall that how much VAT contributed in our total tax revenue? We talked about income tax, we talked about customs duty, we talked about value-added tax. Is there any idea that how much of our 100 taka tax revenue in this pie, how much of this 100 taka tax revenue comes from value-added tax?
Sir, 37%?
Yeah, around that percentage, 35 to 36 or 37% percentages. If you look at the, thank you for your answer. If you look at the historical composition of our total tax revenue, you will see this range, value-added tax contribution to our total tax revenue ranges from 35 to 36, this percentage is on an average. So we can easily understand how significant VAT is in its contribution to our total tax revenue, and in term which also contributes to our total government revenue, and in general it contributes us to help the formation of our country to continue the regular activities of government, these things. Okay, so the thing is that VAT is kind of direct or indirect tax?
The indirect tax.
That is a kind of indirect tax. Very common question to you. And can anyone explain in detail why we tell VAT as an indirect tax in terms of tax terms or in terms of economic terms? We know that VAT can be transferable. That's why it is known as indirect tax. I mean, the burden can be transferable. But there are two terms. I don't know whether you are familiar with those terms from your microeconomics text or any other text from your earlier education level. Okay. Have you heard about impact and incidence of tax?
Yes, sir.
From where?
In macroeconomics.
Macro,
Yes, no, sir. Microeconomics.
micro.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. What is impact?
So how much the buyer or the seller has to bear the impact of the tax?
It is the immediate transfer, right? Immediate burden.
Immediate
Immediate
burden.
burden
Buyer or the seller?
taken by the buyer. Okay. Then what is incidence? The burden which is ultimately borne
Yes, sir.
by,
Exactly. Exactly.
right?
Yes, sir. Ultimately born by them.
Okay, okay. So in case of value added tax, if you look at the entities which are involved in the business cycle, so all parties except the customer can transfer the value added tax they paid to their seller, to the buyer to whom they are selling goods. They can transfer. I mean, if you talk about wholesaler pays VAT when they purchase goods from importer. What importer can do in turn, when importer will sell the goods to the retailer, he will collect the price including VAT from retailer,
Yes, sir.
and the amount of VAT he collected from the retailer will compensate a portion of the VAT he paid to the importer. The good is transferred from importer to wholesaler, wholesaler to retailer. So in each stage there is a valuation, there is a VAT payable. So when wholesaler pays VAT to the importer, ultimately the VAT is payable to the government, but these entities individual are responsible for collecting VAT on behalf of the authority. So they will ultimately transfer the amount they collected in the name of VAT to the government account. But the thing is that when the wholesaler has bought goods from importer, wholesaler has paid input VAT for the goods he has taken as input. He has paid input VAT, the wholesaler. And when wholesaler will sell the goods after having some value addition to the retailer, what will happen? He will collect VAT from retailer, and that VAT will be known as input VAT to the retailer, but for wholesaler that VAT will be known as output VAT. So which one is a bigger number for wholesaler, input VAT or output VAT?
Sir, is that output VAT?
Output VAT will be a bigger number because there has been some value addition by the wholesaler. So the value has become increased. So if you apply the percentage, the output VAT is expected to be higher than the input VAT. So there is a difference.
Yes, sir. Differences.
There is a difference. So you see, let's say input VAT paid by the wholesaler is, say, for example, 10 taka, and he has collected, for example, 14 taka. So how much wholesaler is now liable to pay to the government, the wholesaler? 4 taka.
4 taka.
Uh, who will pay this 10 taka? Importer will pay. Okay, because importer has collected it from the wholesaler. Importer has collected this amount from whom? From the wholesaler. And wholesaler has collected how much? 14 taka from the retailer. And how much is liability to the wholesaler to be paid to the government? The 4 taka. Okay, if I don't think about other parties, how much government is taking in total? 10 taka from importer, then 4 taka from the wholesaler. But the thing is that ultimately, if the retailer is not the final person, ultimately total VAT will be paid by the customer, or ultimate, which is more appropriate, the word is consumer. The consumer ultimately bears the whole burden. The thing is that importer will pay this amount to the government, or wholesaler will pay this amount to the government. They will collect this amount from the subsequent parties. So ultimately the incidence will be borne by whom? Incidence will be borne by the consumer. Okay.
স্যার লাস্টেরটা একটু আবার একটু বলবেন স্যার, ইনসিডেন্স কি হোলসেল মানে কনজিউমার কেন বহন করলো পুরোপুরি?
Because this tax, value added tax, which is indirect tax, is to be finally borne by the person who consumes the goods or services. It is not the person who are involved in the process in which consumer is not there. I mean, there is wholesaler, there is importer, there is distributor, there is retailer. There, these parties will not bear this. Who will bear this ultimately?
কনজিউমার।
How consumer is bearing this all?
স্যার ইজ ইট বাই
Because,
ভ্যালু এডিং?
sorry,
Value adding, in the process the value is added, then
they have
when
added the value, but
sir.
the thing is that I have showed to you that 10 taka has been paid by importer, 4 taka has been paid by wholesaler. Can you recall?
Yes,
So
sir.
what they will do? They will collect this amount from whom?
From the consumer.
How? By adding this price to by adding this VAT to their price.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will show you a detailed calculation later. This is just kind of idea to understand the impact and incidence. Okay.
So now
So
I got it. Thank you, sir.
yeah, welcome. The impact and incidence of value added tax is totally borne by the consumer, and it is it can be transferable. It is kind of indirect tax. And another thing what I like to highlight is that this value added tax is directly proportional to the expenditure. It is not proportional to the income. But the tax, what we have learned from previous classes, kind of individual assessment, company assessment, what is the base variable there? The income tax is proportional to income. Income tax is proportional to income or anything else?
Proportional to income.
Proportional to income. A value added tax is proportional to what?
Expenditure.
Value-added tax is proportional to the expenditure. If you do expenditure and that expenditure involves VAT, we will have to incur VAT. If we do not make expenditure, in that case, we can avoid, we do not have to pay the VAT. Okay. So you probably have heard about the very recently enacted VAT Act, which is known as Value Added Tax and Value Added Tax and Supplementary Duty Act 2012. Have you heard about it? Value Added Tax and Supplementary Duty Act 2012. You have heard about it? You have much heard about it because of the movement named No VAT. Can you recall that movement? People
Was that on
demonstrate, huh?
was that on private university education back in 2000?
Yeah, I was referring that, but at the same time, you also that was significant, and in last recent years also you have experienced that the businessmen are opposing to the implementation of this act. They don't want to get it implemented as it was introduced. So there has been a series of changes in this act. For that reason, this act is no longer in its original form. The implementation has started, but there was some issues which are introduced in this act to simplify the VAT, process. But because of the opposition made by the business people, made by other parties, government could not implement it as it is expected or designed originally. So in addition to this, we have to recognize this. Can you recall that we have income tax ordinance is still now 1984? Can you recall we have income tax ordinance 1984?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In relation to that act, there is income tax rules 1984.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the purpose of the rule? The purpose of the rule is to implement the act. Okay.
Yes, sir.
To implement any ordinance or to implement any act, there is a rules required. So to implement this value added tax and supplementary duty act, the value added tax and supplementary duty rules 2016 is now effective. Value added tax and supplementary duty rules 2016. Okay. So the thing is that if we now ask for reference which VAT act is now ongoing or which VAT rules are now ongoing, the answer is this acts and these rules. Okay, so here you can look at the original document for these acts and these rules. In the NVR website, if you go to the acts and look at the VAT acts, you will see there is a Value Added Tax and Supplementary Duty Act 2012. Okay, so before that, which was applicable in our country, 1991. Okay, you probably have heard about that. This in 1991, VAT was introduced in Bangladesh. Can you recall? This is a kind of
Yes, sir.
very common
Value
GK
added tax
question.
added.
This is a kind of very common GK question. There was a date on which date VAT was introduced in Bangladesh in 1991. On which date?
Sir, July Act.
Okay, thank you. So let's continue our discussion. The thing is that if anyone asks what is the VAT percentage, the percentage is always 15% except the exception. But the thing is that in general, the VAT rate is 15%. But the problem is that in this Act 2012, the uniform VAT rate was proposed, but businessmen were concerned that it would increase the cost of the consumers. So they wanted to reduce the rate, and they also wanted to make differentiation in the rates for different aspects. So the VAT rate is no longer uniform 15%. You will see different rates applicable in different areas, different segments, different business, different products, different businesses, different services. In different fields, you will see the VAT rate is different. And sometimes you will see the VAT rate has not been expressed in percentage, rather the VAT rate has been expressed in terms of some quantity of goods. For example, in newspaper, what is the basic raw material for newspaper owners?
So paper.
Paper is the basic raw material for newspaper owner. So on that paper which is used for newspaper, the VAT is charged based on the quantity expressed in ton. Expressed in ton. So it is a kind of unique that VAT has been expressed not in terms of value addition, not in terms of value, not in terms of final price, but in terms of some quantity. So the thing is that it looks like, I can't recall the right exact amount that how much is VAT to be payable on that per ton. So I just have got it from your text 514 page. On the newsprint paper, the VAT is 1600 taka per ton. 1600 taka per ton. Okay. Now, another example on which the VAT is not based on value addition, or base is not value addition, rather it is based on the quantity or based on some grades. So that example, another example is, for example, I should say bricks of different grades. You know that for bricks there are different grades. Are you familiar with it? Bricks, there are several grades. Any idea how many grades are available in our country for bricks? One, 2, 20, 30, 15, more than 100. Is there anyone building owner or who was involved in construction of his house? No one. Okay. If you go for purchasing bricks to the brick seller, they will tell you more than or close to 10 type of grades or more than 10 grades, or very specifically or very narrowly you will see close to 3 type of grade. So in tax or VAT environment, they have recognized that there should be 3 type of grade or 3 grades. So for 3 grades, VAT rate are different: 450, 450, 500, 700. I'm not sure that this amount has been, this amount is based on some ton. Probably it is based on ton, but I'm not sure. But the rates are different for, it has been based on what? Based on the grade, different grades of bricks. So these are some kind of unique kind of imposition of VAT, which is different from the conventional imposition of VAT based on the value addition or based on the monetary value, rather based on some quantity. Okay. So if we do not know what is the rate applicable, by default, we need to know the VAT rate is 15%. Okay. Can anyone tell me what is the VAT rate you have experienced when you go for having your lunch or evening snacks at some restaurants where VAT is applicable? How much VAT they charge from you? Have you seen the invoice?
Yes, sir.
How much VAT they charge?
So 15%.
15%. Okay. Now, I believe that you, many of you have experience of having shopping from Super Shop. How much VAT they charge from you?
Sir, 15%.
15%, sure.
Sir, it varies.
Okay. From which percentage to which percentage it varies?
Sir, 10 to 30%.
10 to 30%.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But I have not experienced such higher rate in case of Super Shop shopping. I can't recall the exact percentage, but as my knowledge goes, they charge, I mean, their products are some kind of, what should I say? If you buy the same package of goods, which are kind of packaged goods, I mean, if I like to give you an example, say if you want to buy a packaged good, not in terms of open. So same packaged goods, say one packet of something from open market, or same one packet of goods, same brand, I'm not mentioning any brand right now, or any product, say one packet of rice, you can think of one packet of aromatic rice or 1 kg of aromatic rice, which is packaged of a particular brand. If you go for buying this from the open market and or from the Super Shop, in Super Shop, you have to pay 4.5% extra. 4.5% extra. I believe that that percentage is close to 4.5 to 5%. You can verify it when you will go for buying or when you will go for comparing this, whether it is 5% or 4.5% or different from this. So it is not on all goods. So based on the packaged goods, this rate is applicable. So sometimes you will see for some goods, the price is cheaper in super shop compared to open market. So on those goods, the VAT is not applicable. All goods are not under the VAT net. So other than the uniform VAT rate 15%, if you go through the VAT and Supplementary Duty Act, you will see several VAT rates. So that is dependent on the base on which the VAT is implemented or VAT is calculated. So one, other than the 15%, which percentages you are expected to see as a VAT. So these other percentages are, I just have mentioned one percentage, that is 4.5%. So other than the 15%, you are expected to see other VAT rates, which are 2%, 2.4%, 4.5%, 5%, 7.5%, 10%. So how many rates I have mentioned other than 15%?
So 6.
6. So usually when VAT is imposed on the full value, that rate is 15%. But when the full value is not clear, VAT is imposed based on some estimated value addition. In that case, you are expected to see this kind of percentages, say 2%, 2.4%, 4.5%, 5%, 7.5%, 10%. Okay. I just have given an example of the buying from super shop. Okay. Is it very clearly distinguishable how much value addition is done by the super shop in their goods they are selling? Is it very easily distinguishable?
No, sir.
Have you got my question?
না স্যার ইজিলি ডিস্টিংগুইশ করা যায় না স্যার
In that case, the 15% has not been applied there. So that is the reason why you see the 4.5% there. Okay. So you will experience different percentages, and what you will do immediately, you will try to understand that what is the reason of imposing this different rate other than 15%. You will immediately recognize that the percentages on which you are paying in that particular transaction, value addition is not clearly identifiable. That's why this different rate has been applied. Okay. So let's continue. The thing is that when a good is produced, there are different parties involved. But if we summarize those parties in the name of producer, we still have to take help from other parties to take the goods from the production stage to the consumption stage. So there is a whole supply chain process involved. So in that case, the expected parties who are commonly involved are known as wholesaler here, then retailer. Before retailer, there can be some other slab like the distributor. Okay, we are just simplifying in this way. Final consumer. So if producer is dependent on some natural, what should I say, naturally produced or locally produced thing, in that case, the supply chain starts from where? Producer. If production of that product is dependent on some locally produced natural goods, production starts from producer, or there
Yes, sir.
should be some other parties before in the backward side. But if we think of that there are some goods which is required by the producer, which is not locally available, in that case, producer has to depend on some imported things. Okay. So in each stage, if you try to understand this cycle, in each stage, there should be some value addition, except the final consumer. Does the consumer add any value?
No, sir.
Okay, but other than the consumer, all parties try to add some value. So which things are considered as value? Is it always adding some goods which is directly identifiable from the product? For example, if you look at the product in this stage from importer to producer, you can immediately recognize there has been a significant transformation of the product from the raw material. But if you look at the same product from the producer to wholesaler, has there been any significant transformation?
No, sir.
It's just kind of transferring goods from one place to another place, this kind of, or from big seller to small seller, these things, or manufacturer to wholesaler. But how we are telling that each stage here, is still there are some value addition.
So
Okay.
in terms of price, there is a value addition here.
Okay, so you see that here processing is done. Here, when producer transfer goods to the wholesaler, there has been some labor involved. There has been some labor involved to ship the goods from producer to wholesaler.
Yes, sir.
Or it is free of cost. There should be some transportation cost. There should be some other overhead. If you if the wholesaler maintains the goods in a warehouse, there should be some overhead cost, or there should be no cost for housing the goods.
Sir,
What do you think?
there should be some overhead costs.
Okay. These things are expected to repeat here also. when when the goods are in the hand of retailer. Retailer has some people who are helping him to sell the goods, and he has some transportation cost to take the goods from wholesaler shop to his shop, and there has been some overhead cost for uh, storing those goods. There should be.
Yes, sir. There should be.
Okay, so these things are example of value. This example, these parts are, these components are example of value. And for this cost, in addition to this cost coverage, the parties also want to have some profit. Okay. So these are some example of value addition. So let me give you an example that how the VAT is collected and how VAT is paid and who are responsible for paying VAT and how the goods are transferred from each stage to each stage, which is very mostly familiar with all of you. Say if the material comes from some imported component, then producer take the component and produce the product, then he transfer to the goods to the wholesaler, then to the retailer, then to the final consumer. And if we assume that there is a input value and there should be some value addition, which may value, there is some value addition where there are some processing cost, there are some profit, and if we add the value addition with the value of input, we should have value of output. And if we think of, we just have we have told you the input VAT. So in each stage there is an input, and in each stage there is an output. So in both sides there should have some VAT implication. So you see, if there is a VAT, if we put a column here, VAT paid on input, and another column, VAT collected, to be collected, or VAT, another word is VAT levied or imposed on output, and total invoice price including VAT. You see, in the invoice there is a, in the invoice you commonly see that price and price including VAT. You see this kind of writing, price including VAT, or in the invoice you see that the price has been written and the VAT amount has been separately written, and you see the final price here.
Yes, sir.
What does it mean? It is the output price and it is the VAT price. And what is it? It is the invoice price. Okay. So and there should be some difference between the input VAT and the output VAT, which is to be paid by the respective party. Let me give you the name of that column, VAT paid. So if we take an example that the good which has been the raw material, in fact, which has been imported by the importer cost 100 taka, and importer has incurred some processing cost which is say 10 taka, and he has added some profit with that imported raw material. In that case, how much value addition has been done in total? 30?
Yes, sir. 30.
Okay, if we add the 30 with the input value, how much should be the value of output? $130. So if importer is supposed to pay VAT 15%, on which price that he will pay VAT when he imports his raw material? This one or this one?
So 100.
Huh?
100 on 100.
100 because it is his input. His input is 100 taka, so that input VAT should be on 100 taka. So it should be 15. And now if he goes for selling this output to the producer, at which price he will sell this? 130, or he will have to collect the 15% VAT?
So is it on 130?
It should be on 130. So what he will do? He will add 15% on 130. Then he will sell the good to the producer. So how much is 15% on 130? It is 19.5.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what will be the invoice price to the producer when he will buy the goods from importer? When producer buys the goods from importer, what will be the invoice price he is supposed to pay to the importer?
149.50.
149.50. Okay. So let me write a column here. Okay. Invoice. And here VAT paid or payable. Okay, 149.5. Okay. Now importer has already paid 15, and he has collected how much? 19.5. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Can the importer keep the additional 4.5 with him?
No, sir. The additional 4.50 has to be paid to the government.
Okay, in that case, how much importer has paid in total? 15 when he has bought the input, and 4.5. How much is total?
19.5.
Have we got it? Okay, assuming that you have got it, let's continue. So the importer is supposed to clear this amount of VAT, 19.5. Now producer has got the goods from the importer. the goods what he has got from the importer, that good has the input value of 149.5 or 130. Which one?
149.5.
Why? It has it 19.5 has no business. I mean 19.5 has no consequence on the producer's input value. It is
Oh,
kind of VAT he has paid in addition.
oh,
In
okay,
addition to the
sir.
input value.
Okay,
Okay.
so then it will be 130.
So it should be 130. Obviously, his invoice price was 149.5. So I'll show you later what he will do to clear or to collect the VAT what he has paid. Producer has paid how much VAT to the importer? Producer has paid how much VAT to the importer when he was buying the 130 amount of good? 19.5.
Yes, sir. 19.5.
Okay. Let's assume that producer has added this amount of value, 35 for processing and 15 for profit. In that case, what will be his output value?
180.
180. Now, how much VAT he paid to the importer? 19.5.
19.5.
Okay. So when producer will sell the 180 worth of output to the wholesaler, what should be the invoice price and what should be the VAT he will impose on the output value? 15% rate.
Invoice price will be 199.50.
199.50. How? It is the VAT what he has paid already to the producer.
Yes,
And
sir.
when producer will sell the good to the wholesaler, producer will impose VAT this amount or 15% on the output value.
Sir, 15% of the output value, which is 27.
So it should be 15% of the output value. Okay. Don't forget here, it was also based on what? 100 or 130. This one. This one is based on 130 or
Yes,
100.
sir. 130, 130, 130.
This one is output value.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's continue. Okay. So it should be 27. Now, what will be the invoice price? It will be 199.5 or 207.
207.
Anyone missing here? How we are proceeding here? Anyone missing?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now tell me how much VAT producer is now responsible to deposit to the government exchequer or the National Board of Revenue VAT Authority. How much, for how much amount producer is responsible?
Sir, 22.50.
22.50. How you have got it? 22.5.
Sir, first of all, the VAT rate is 15, then 27 minus 19.5 equals to 22.5.
Okay. You see, Envier has already got this 15
Yes, sir.
through importer.
Yes, sir.
So should NVR get double?
No, sir, no. Then it will be 7.5.
Have you got it? What I have
Yes,
pointed
sir.
out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
NVR should get
7.5.
only 7.5. How we have got 7.5?
27 minus 19.5. Then
27 minus 19.5.
yes, sir.
Okay. So if we continue writing this, let me open it for you from the text so that I'll not write. I feel that you have got the process, right?
Yes, sir.
How we are proceeding? Okay.
স্যার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল
Yes.
স্যার প্রথমবারে এনবিআর কত টাকা ভ্যাট দেওয়া হয়েছে
Sorry.
15 স্যার যখন 100 টাকা ভ্যালু অফ ইনপুট ছিল তখন এনবিআর কত টাকা ভ্যাট পাইছে প্রোডিউসার কত টাকা ভ্যাট জমা করছে
When the input value was 100 taka,
জি স্যার
it is with the importer, right?
জি স্যার
Okay. So if importer is supposed to pay VAT on the imported goods, how much VAT importer has paid to the NVR? 15?
জি স্যার
Okay. Okay. Let's continue. So the goods are now in the hand of wholesaler. Wholesaler has got the output value of how much? 180. And the processing cost and the profit 20, the total value addition is 25. So in that case, what is the output value in the stage of wholesaler? 205. And how much VAT wholesaler paid to the producer when he was buying the goods from producer? This one, 27. Here is the 27. And when wholesaler is selling the good to the retailer, how much VAT he will impose? 15% on which value? 205 or 180?
On 205.
205. So on 205, he has collected how much? 27. He paid how much? He collected 30.75. And he paid 27 to the producer in earlier stage. In that case, how much is now he responsible to pay to the NVR? This one, 3.75. Okay. Now, it happens in the similar way to the retailer. And when the goods is in the hand of final consumer, what is the value of the good to the final consumer? 225. But can you tell me how much consumer has to pay? Is it 225 or more than this or less than this?
So more than this?
By how much? He has to bear all this VAT?
Yes, sir.
Consumer has to bear all of this burden? That's
Yes,
why VAT is
sir.
an indirect tax, right?
Yes, sir.
Sir, should
So
that total amount be 258.75 taka?
it should be 225 plus all this amount, summation of all these figures. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
how much you get? How much you are getting? 258.75. 75. Now, can you check that how much is 33.75 of the 225?
Sir, it is 15%.
It is 15%. So in this way, this mechanism should work. This mechanism works only when the rates is constant, 15%. You see, the rate is constant 15%. We have applied, or we have changed the rate in different stage.
No, sir, we have 15%.
We have kept the rate 15% constant.
Yes, sir.
But the thing is that in Bangladesh, you will see that the rate varies from stage to stage. In that case, if the rate varies from stage to stage, will it be possible to collect the amount what has been paid? For example, say a producer has to pay 15%, wholesaler producer has to pay say 10%, retailer has to pay 5%. Will it be possible for the producer to recover the amount of VAT he has paid?
No, sir.
That is the difficulty what is happening in Bangladesh. And it is the problem in the case of variable VAT rate. Okay. So before going for further discussion, let me familiarize with you another concept, because we just have got the idea that in each stage, each party can get the refund or can get the claim or claim the amount what he has paid in the name of input VAT. Have you got the idea? Producer, wholesaler, yes, retailer, when they are selling their output, they are collecting output VAT, and it has been possible for them, producer, wholesaler, retailer, importer, it has been possible for them to get the refund, rebate, get the claim of the input VAT from the output VAT. Has it been possible?
Yes, sir. It has been possible.
Okay. Now the thing is that it is only possible when the VAT rate is constant. One thing is that. And another thing is that when the goods are not VAT exempt goods. This mechanism works when the VAT rate is 15% or VAT rate is constant in all stages, and it is not, the goods are not VAT exempt goods. So the VAT exempt goods are those goods which have been made exempt from the VAT or value added tax by the declaration of the NBR or by the ruling of NBR. So can you give me an example on which the NBR has exempt VAT recently? Very recently, NBR has exempt some goods, some VAT on some goods on which VAT was applicable earlier. COVID-19 vaccine and all other vaccines and all other medical equipments which are connected or which are very associated with the COVID-19 treatment, those goods have been exempt from the VAT. Okay. So what you will try to do, you will look at the newspaper or you will find for this news and you will share about this with me in next class. Okay. So in relation to this, what is the opposite? There are some goods which are known as zero rated goods. Zero rated. So what does it mean? It means that there are some goods which are on which VAT is applicable, but those goods are not VAT exempt. If VAT is applicable, can those goods can be VAT exempt?
No, sir.
Those goods cannot be VAT exempt. On those goods, VAT is applicable. But tax authority has declared that VAT should be 0% on those goods, some specific goods. Now, if the question is how the VAT exempt goods and the zero rated goods, one type of good is VAT exempt goods, another type of good is zero rated goods. So we may feel that zero rated goods are look like VAT exempt goods because VAT is not applicable. But the thing is not like that. In case of VAT exempt goods, if there has been any input tax, if there has been any input tax by mean of any form, and where will not give you the privilege to collect those amount what you have paid in the name of input tax by charging output tax. You cannot do that. In which case, VAT exempt goods. But in case of zero rated goods, if you have paid any input tax, you are permitted to get the refund of the amount what you paid in the transaction when you are making the purchase of input. So that is how zero rated goods and VAT exempt goods are different. So there has been a separate list. It is an international practice that some goods are zero rated goods. For example, if I like to give you a global example, in the train or car, the separate seats are installed for the kids and baby. So those seats which are for kids or which are for babies purpose, those product have been made zero rated. That means VAT is applicable, but the rate is 0%. But those are not VAT exempt goods. Okay. So we will have more examples in coming days regarding this type of goods. So let's talk about, we have got the mechanism that how the responsibility of paying VAT is transferred from one party to another party. And we have realize that this process sometimes does not work smoothly as has been shown here when the VAT rate is not uniform. So in the income tax authorities, you probably have seen there has been layers of authorities, which from the junior position or the starting position, it starts from kind of assistant revenue officer, then revenue officer, then assistant commissioner of taxes. You probably have seen this kind of, which on the highest stage of the authority, there has been the member of the NBR, but after the member, there are different chief commissioner of taxes. In each zone, there is one commissioner responsible. So in the VAT or value added tax, there is separate authority. NBR has broadly three wings. One is for income tax, another one is for value added tax, then another one is for custom duty. So I can't recall right now where it has been displayed in their website, but NVR has broadly three wings. In addition to this thing, there has been another wing. So three core wings are income tax, value added tax, and the customs duty. So in each wing, the authorities are similar, which starts from very junior assistant revenue officer, and which range from assistant revenue officer to chief commissioner. So what I like to show you right now, that is when you will feel that you need registration under the Value Added Tax and Supplementary Duty Act 2012. So let me open the act from the original source. It's not here. If you like to see the act from here, what can you do? You can open this. Is it probably open? No. Okay. So it is in Bangla. English is also available. So the question is, when you have to take the registration under this act, this question is similar to the question when you are supposed to submit the income tax return. Can you recall? There are some conditions. Okay. Does this wordings look very easier to understand to you? The 47. These wordings are very easy going to you. What does it
No,
mean?
sir.
Okay, not easy going. So in that case, let me give you the wordings in the English. The thing is that we are now dealing with the issue that when you have to take the registration under this Value Added Tax and Supplementary Duty Act 2012, So the answer is, it is based on the turnover. So what is turnover? We already have cleared it in previous classes. So if from your economic activities, so there is a clear concept of economic activities in this act. Let me show you here. If your economic activities give you the turnover, which is from a threshold amount, you see the economic activities, there is a clear definition of this. Okay, what you are doing, you are in the business of supplying goods, supplying service, supplying fixed kind of assets. Other than this, if you are engaged in any profession, any occupation, any income generating activity where you are undertaking for the purpose of producing goods, or you are taking lease, or you are providing, you have taken license for what purpose? For supplying goods, services, or you have some commercial activities you transform. So this kind of economic activities, which is, what should I say? Kind of self-explanatory. If I ask you what is economic activity, this kind of very self-explanatory. But what is our question? Our question is when we should take the registration under this act. So the answer is that if you have the turnover from the activities, what I just have mentioned, that is the, if you have the annual turnover, what is the range of the time? 12 months, right? In the 12 months time, if you have the annual turnover, which is above this limit, and this limit is known as registration threshold. So what is this amount? 2.4 million or 24 million or 0.24 million?
2.4 million.
2.4 million. Taka?
Yes, sir.
So what does it mean? It means that, let me make it more clear. You will get the reference from your text if your page number 482 is open before you. A person whose turnover exceeds the registration threshold within a 12-month period closing at the end of the month preceding that month. So when you are thinking of taking the registration before that month, if you look at the 12-month turnover and you see that your turnover has exceeded 2.4 million taka, in that case, you are supposed to take the registration under this act. Another clause is that a person whose estimated turnover exceeds the registration threshold within the succeeding 12-month period beginning at the start of the preceding month. The thing is that if you feel that in expected 12-month time, coming 12-month time, you will have turnover which will exceed this 2.4 million taka, in that case, you are also supposed to take the registration under the VAT and Supplementary Duty Act. Now, let me give you an example. From the text, this example is available. Let's say the date today is July 15, 2019. And a company has prepared its financial statements which ended on 30 June 2019. The financial statement is prepared in which date? This date. Right now, the company is in which date? In this date. So this date is preceding of this date or succeeding of this date? This date is preceding of this date. This
Preceding.
date precedes this date or succeeds this date?
Precedes that July.
Precedes this date. This date contains a story of only this date or 12 months date? This date, the financial statements have been prepared on this date. The financial statements which has been prepared for this time, this statement contains the story of 12 months or a single date. It has been prepared for the previous 12 months. I'm not asking for balance sheet. The turnover stays where? Balance sheet or income statement?
Income statement.
So in that case, the income statement is prepared for a specific date or it is prepared for a range of date, a range of period, right? It is for the period, the period is for 12 months in general. Okay. So the company has reported on this date that it had turnover of 30.5 million. Now the question is this company supposed to take the registration? Under this act? Have we got the question? What is the threshold?
2.4 million.
2.4 million. This company has reported how much turnover?
30.5 million.
So this company is clearly
Should take the registration because it is within the 12 months and it has surplus 2.4 million.
okay. Now some companies are it supposed to take the registration based on what should I say, the mandatory registration. Let me check whether it is available here when mandatory registration is applicable for you. Okay. Okay. Before going for mandatory registration, let me check some exception. Exception for turnover. I mean, in the calculation of turnover, which values will not be included? You see, you cannot include this in the calculation of turnover. And there is some additional rule, which is I can't find out this exactly from that act, but it is all obviously available here. I'm referring from your text, page number 483, where it has been said the mandatory registration is applicable. Mandatory. So when mandatory registration is applicable, if anyone is in a business where he or she supplies or manufactures any goods or service which is subject to supplementary duty in Bangladesh. So if you are in a business on which supplementary duty is applicable, you must take the registration under this act. Have you heard about the supplementary duty? Have you heard about
Yes, sir, we have
supplementary
heard
duty?
it.
Huh? You have heard about it. Okay. We'll talk about it detail in next class, which is basically imposed on the luxury type of goods. So you are familiar with the 300% tax on the car imported in our country.
Yes, sir.
So that duty is a part of supplementary duty. Okay. So if I ask you that, say, if there is a company who sells auto, that company should take mandatory registration under this act. Let me skip the term company. For example, you are a businessman. You sell auto, imported, reconditioned auto, on which what is applicable? Supplementary duty is applicable. In that case, should you take the mandatory registration? Is it mandatory for you? Are you getting the question? I'm giving you the answer, then I'm asking question, then I'm asking. The answer is already available to you. As the businessman is involved in selling or supplying some goods on which SD is applicable, that's why mandatory registration is applicable for him. Okay. Now, have you heard about this company?
Yes, sir.
What is its business?
স্যার এরা এর কয়েক 2-3 বছর আগে স্যার এরা ট্যাক্সি নামে ছিল বাংলাদেশে, ঢাকায় কোন আছে টমা ট্যাক্সি, মোস্ট প্রবাবলি তাদের একটা সেকশন ছিল কনস্ট্রাকশন, বেসিক্যালি কনস্ট্রাকশন সাইটের তারা কিছু নিয়ে করে।
Okay. How they get the construction work? By participating in some contract or by participating in some tender?
Yes, sir. By participating.
Yeah. But if you are someone who does contract to get this kind of work or who participate in tender, you must have the mandatory registration under this act. Have you got the
Yes,
clause?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, for example, you are someone who export crocodile from Bangladesh. Is the spelling correct? It's correct.
Yes, sir.
Maybe it's from my side. I'm getting confirmed from you. So maybe it's not available in your hand. Maybe I have said maybe it is correct or may
Sir,
not be. It is
it's
correct.
Perfect.
It's perfect. Okay, fine. So you are someone who exports crocodile from Bangladesh. Do you know Bangladesh is one of the countries which export crocodile?
Sir, আগে জানতাম না।
Okay. So you read newspaper? You read newspaper,
Sometimes.
daily newspaper? Sometimes. Newspaper is not sometimes published. Newspaper is daily published. Newspaper is published daily. So we are supposed to read the newspaper daily. So what I am requesting you to read the today's newspaper, and you will see that someone who pioneered in the export of crocodile from Bangladesh was died in the prison day before yesterday. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that person was the pioneer in exporting crocodile from Bangladesh. So what I'm trying to say, if you're a person who export or import in Bangladesh, he has to take the mandatory registration. Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there are some specific geographical area in Bangladesh where if you do set up a business, you have to take the mandatory registration. So what is your expectation in which area this geographical region lies? Will it be in a very remote place, or it should be in a very important places, areas in the capital city or metropolitan city? If you do set up a business here, you have to take the mandatory registration.
So is it on important areas?
So metropolitan area.
It should be some important areas, including EPZ, including capital city. Okay. So I'm not giving you such example. I'm just giving you the idea. So in addition to that, there has been a general order that will be available here. If you want to see here, you see the geo. You see?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you go to the VAT geo, VAT general order, you will see several general orders which have been issued earlier, and you will see one general order where it has been mentioned that if these conditions are applicable for you, you are supposed to take the mandatory registration. Okay. For example, let me give you an example. What should I say? You see this one? The general idea is that the participants who will participate in the international trade fair, they will have to pay the value-added tax. Okay. So what I'm trying to say that you will see some general orders where it has been said that you are supposed to take the mandatory registration. So I need to find out that you will see the reference from your text when you have to take the registration as an obligation. Okay. Otherwise, you will be penalized by the authority. Okay, let's continue. When we are talking about registration, which registration is mentioned? Which registration is our interest? Is it the tax identification number? It is not the tax identification number. Let me give you the idea. It is the BIN number. Can anyone speculate what should be the B?
Business identification number?
Business identification number.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So from where you will get it? If you go to the home page, you see the e-bin.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what can you do also here? Online VAT registration. Okay. For VAT registration, what you will do? You will go here and file for VAT registration. And other than this, let me tell you that how many registration is necessary for you. For example, I'm giving an example from the text. Okay. Let me explain this example. Okay. ABC company owns 2 factories. You see 2 factories. One is factory 1 and the one is factory 2. But there has a single central depot. Factory 1, factory 2, central depot. From this central depot, they transfer their goods to regional depot. This is how a typical business operates. Okay. It is for the production side. It is for the supply side now. Okay. Delivery side. So how many regional depot they have? 3. Yes. Under these 3 regional depot, how many sales depot they have?
6 sales depot.
6. Now, the question is, factory 1 manufactures mobile phones and laptops of different models and price. You see mobile phone and laptop. And factory 2 also produce the same kind of good or similar goods. You see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it has been mentioned that the products manufactured by the 2 factories are first transferred to the central depot, which are then stored in the regional depot. These are stored in the different regional depot. Finally, these products are sold to the distributors via the sales depot. So the company also imports similar goods, which are then sold via the same channel, from factory to central, central to regional, regional to sales, sales to distributor. So it has been mentioned that all books of accounts are recorded or maintained centrally. All books and accounts and records are maintained centrally. So if I ask you that what kind of registration is more suitable for them, they should take the registration for factory 1 separately, factory 2 separately, and or they should take a single registration. Which one will be more favorable for them?
So if they take the single registration.
So it has been said that if any person conducts economic activities by supplying identical or similar goods and services from 2 or more places. So we have observed that there have been several places. But what they do, they preserve all books and records centrally. In that case, what they can do, they can take central registration instead of taking the unit registration. Have you got it? So it will be based on how they want to take the registration. But there is another alternative. If you see that this company, look different or same?
This company look different.
How?
So before that, for the previous company, it just had a central registration, but this company had unit registration.
So in that case, what will be a suggestion for this company? This company will have to take the
central registration, sir.
Central or decentral? It has to take the unit registration. It has to take the unit registration. For what reason? Because the factories, though they record or maintain their books centrally, they do not have the similar products in different factories, right?
Yes,
their
sir.
products are different. Their products are different. So NVR has also mentioned that if any manufacturer produces and supplies identical or similar goods from 2 or more places and maintains all records and accounts of economic activity in a central unit, in that case, you have to take the central or single registration. Okay, so there are some other exceptions. For example, if any entity manufactures identical or similar goods and supplies the same, 15% is also applicable through its own sales depot or warehouse. They can also obtain the central registration if their VAT rate is uniform or applicable VAT rate is uniform. So you will see some other exceptions from your text. What I like to highlight right now, if you want to go here, where online VAT registration, what you need to do? If we go for sign up, we have to make an account here first. But the thing is that after having the sign up, you will see there has been a good amount of learning regarding VAT in a separate portal. It has been separate portal under this nvr.gov.bd is a separate site. But the thing is that in general, if you want to take the registration under this act, you need to have some document available with you. Can anyone tell me, if you want to set up a business by yourself, which document you first need to take at the very beginning?
Trade license.
Very good. Shared license. So similarly, it has to be submitted when you want to take the VAT registration. Okay. Now, if your business is a kind of partnership, which is very typical nowadays, what we need to submit? Deed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the owner's TIN certificate. Then there are some other certificate what you'll have to add, which is also kind of your ETIN number, kind of your NID number, NID. Then you have to submit your photograph. Then you have to submit your bank solvency certificate, these things. Okay. So we have come to learn where the TIN is required. Can anyone mention one example what you can remember right now where TIN number is required?
Sir, in case of admitting the children into English medium schools, the TIN number is required.
Okay. You have remembered it very well. I probably have mentioned it in class, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So now the question is, where the BIN will be required? If you want to make import or export, except the baggage import, in that case, the BIN is required. Can anyone, anyone Does anyone have the idea that what is baggage import? Some of our students from
Sir, illegal কোনো কিছু বোঝায়?
No. Most interestingly, some of our students, probably from 25th, have opened a new business to sell cosmetics products which will be directly imported from UK.
Yes, sir.
Is there any person here?
Yes, sir. Here I am, sir. I'm one of the partners of the business.
Okay. Does your import look like baggage import?
Sir, yes.
How you import?
Sir, I'm not an active partner, but from
you are sleeping.
Yes,
sleeping partner.
Yes, sir. I'm a sleeping partner.
Okay, but can you tell me how you source the product?
স্যার যতটুকু স্যার জানি স্যার আমাদের সাথে আরেকজন পার্টনার যে পার্টনারটা আছে তো ওনার সাথে আর কি যে মানে যেখান থেকে আর কি ইম্পোর্ট করা হয় তো তার সাথে আর কি আগে থেকে কিছু ওই আছে কন্ট্রাক্ট আছে তো তার কাছ থেকে নাকি প্রোডাক্ট একসাথে কি মানে করে ইম্পোর্ট করা হয় স্যার একটু করে কি স্যার মানে আমি জানি যে আগে থেকে চিনে আর কি যে যার কাছ থেকে প্রোডাক্টটা আনা হয়।
Okay. That means there are again different channel. The channel is not direct.
Sir, I'm not sure, but sir, I think the channel is direct.
Okay. So far my knowledge goes, the baggage import looks like some people do business by traveling to foreign country and buy goods from there and come to our country and sell goods here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So those are kind of import for which bin is not necessary. Have you got it? But I need to check it that what has been clearly mentioned by the baggage import in the law, there should be a very clear definition. Then if you want to have a land for your business, in that case you need to take the registration of the land. Are you familiar with this? You have to take the registration of land. In that case you have to show your bin number. Now, have you heard about this authority, controller of import and export? Have you heard about this authority? Many of you nowadays are interested to set up your own business yourselves. So you will have a very specific course to train up on this. That course will be available to you in the next year, the entrepreneurship. So as an entrepreneur or as a businessman, we need to have an idea that which documents, which registration, which procedures are required to set up a business here. So these are kind of some learning other than the tax learning we need to have. Okay. So one certificate that is known as import registration certificate or export registration certificate. So when you will go for VAT registration, you have to submit the import registration certificate or export registration certificate. So from where it is available? Controller of import and export. Controller of import and export. Okay, from where there it is available. Let me take you to the site of the controller of import and export. In Bangladesh, this one. Office of the Chief Controller of Import and Export. Have you heard about it? This office name? You probably have heard about this name in Bangla in
Yes,
your
sir.
earlier education, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this site is useful if you want to participate in the import and export, because you have to take the license from here for import and export. Okay. So these are the certificate information you need to know before applying for the certificate. Okay. So other than having without having the permission from this controller, none can participate in the import and export. That import and export will become illegal import and illegal export. Okay. Okay. So what we are doing, we are trying to learn where the bin number will be useful. So we just have made an example of Toma construction. What Toma construction was doing, they were participating in some tender and getting some construction works. So if you want to participate in tender, you need to have this. Okay, which number? Business identification number. Okay. Now, if you want to take the bank loan for your business, you need to have the BIN number. Okay. So these are some examples where the BIN number will be useful. And is there any person who has submitted his income tax return in my class voluntarily for the sake of interest? Have you got my question? Any person who has submitted income tax return just to test or just to check that how it works? Okay, the thing is that there is another registration available that is known as voluntary VAT registration. Okay. So the name implies that when it is applicable. It is not in fact applicable. If you want to volunteer to take registration by yourself, you may apply for it. But the thing is that once you obtain the voluntary VAT registration, you have to continue the registration at least for 1 year. You cannot discontinue your registration within 1 year. Okay. So that is all about for today's session. Let me stop the recording first. Then I like to talk something about the term paper. We have few minutes available. So right now I like to just give you an idea that what should be our part B of the term paper. The first task is to go through the company assessment chapter, what we have completed with some examples. And note that to read out the company assessment clearly or to understand it properly, you have to read the income from business and profession chapter very clearly. We have skipped the profession part. We have not covered the profession part. We have covered only the income from business, because the rules which have been mentioned in the income from business are equally applicable here in case of companies, for excluding some exceptions. So have you got the number 1 task for the part B of the term paper?
Yes, sir.
Okay, number 2. Number 2, you have to find out a company who has a very simple business. So why I'm asking for simple business? In that case, their statements, their documents will be easy to go. So let me give you an example, but no one will try to fix that company will be taken by you. Okay. For example, a company, Bongos. Have you heard about this company name? It's a listed company.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this company business is very simple, to sell biscuits, produce and sell biscuits. It is their core business. But other than this, there are some other business, subsidiary business, kind of Tallu is closely related to some kind of textile. I can't recall right now. But what I'm trying to say you that pick a company. Number 2, it is your task. Number 3, pick a company and find out its financial statements from its annual report of a year, what should I say, 2019. If 2020, okay, 2020 19 is good. 2019 financial statements from the 2019 annual report. Then you have to go through the financial statement particulars of that company, which should I say not the consolidated financial statement. I'm not asking for consolidated financial statement. I'm asking for separate financial statement. The separate one. You know the difference between this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you should go through the separate financial statements of that particular company. Now, what you have to do for the task, that is the final task, you have to prepare a case where the opening part will be the statement of comprehensive income of that company, where the revenues are presented, expenses are presented. It is available for what purpose? In the financial statement, it is for the reporting purpose, right? It is not the tax statement, right? Has this statement been prepared for tax purpose or for the reporting purpose, financial reporting purpose?
Financial reporting purpose.
Financial reporting purpose. So it is your first task. You have to understand it very carefully. And from the notes to the financial statements, you have to find out several notes which look like there should be some tax implication. I mean, the treatment they have done for the financial reporting, you are believing that that treatment will be different if we follow the tax standard. Have you got my question?
স্যার ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল নোটে কি দেখবো যে তারা ওই ট্যাক্স স্ট্যান্ডার্ডটা কমপ্লাই করতেছে কিনা, তাই না স্যার?
It may not be directly possible for you to verify that they are following the tax standard, because the tax standard tax statements are not available in the financial statement notes. Which is available? Financial statement for financial reporting is available, and the notes necessary to understand the financial reporting purposing financial statements are available. Yes, but you will surely get some notes which links with the tax standards. Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
So what is my task? My task is to first of all present this statement of comprehensive income in my report. It is first task. Second task is to get some notes, not directly from there, not directly from here. You have to write the notes in your own language so that reader will understand that this item, or for example, this depreciation or say this bad debt, or say the director's compensation, or say incentive bonus, you feel that this item, what they have mentioned in the statement in detail or in notes in detail, it should have some tax implication. If we would prepare the financial statement according to the tax standard, for having these notes, what you have identified, these statements will become different. Have you got my point? The point is that you have to identify those notes from here for which you have sufficient reason to believe that for this part, these notes, for these variables, the tax reporting will differ. Tax reporting will vary from the financial reporting. That's why you have pointed out this, for example, and you have to write it here in your own language with sufficient explanation to make the reader easily understand, to make the reader to understand what you want to say about the tax standard, and what is your point out that how one can convert the financial statement into the tax statement by modifying this based on this note what you have written here. So one good example is the exercise you have seen in the company assessment chapter. You have seen the examples we have solved in the company assessment chapter. Can you recall?
Yes, sir.
We have been provided a financial statement. We have been provided some notes, right? So
Yes,
those
sir.
notes, you can easily understand those notes are not notes look like which notes you see in the financial statements note, right? But those notes are kind of linked to the notes or variables presented in the financial statements. So what is our task is to prepare some kind of this kind of financial statement and some notes or some additional comments which will help a reader to understand that we have some tax implication on the financial statements presented by the company. Am I clear? If not clear, you can ask your query. I am ready to give you answer.
বেসিক্যালি তাহলে এখানে আমাদের মানে নোটস গুলো তৈরি করা লাগবে, তাহলে ওই ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল স্টেটমেন্টে যেগুলো কম্পোনেন্ট গুলো আছে ওগুলোর উপর কি এই বেস করে কি নোটগুলো তৈরি করা লাগবে, যে ট্যাক্স রিলেটেড যেগুলো আমরা কেস মানে যখন কেস সলভ করা হয়েছিল তখন দেখেছিলাম আর কি, ওরকম ভাবে একটা তৈরি করতে হবে, তাই না স্যার? মানে বইতে
আমরা ট্যাক্সের চ্যাপ্টারে আমরা বিজনেসের অ্যাসেসমেন্ট ইনকাম ফ্রম বিজনেস এন্ড প্রফেশনে যে ক্লজ গুলো পড়েছে, যে এই এক্সপেন্সটা অ্যাডমিসেবল বা এই এক্সপেন্সটা ইনঅ্যাডমিসেবল যেভাবে ট্রিট করা হয়েছে, এটা আমরা জানতে পেরেছি কিনা?
ইয়েস স্যার, ইয়েস স্যার।
ওকে, আমাদের পারপাস হচ্ছে এই ধরনের আইটেম গুলো ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল স্টেটমেন্ট যেটা নিয়ে আমরা ফোকাস করছি সেটা নোটস থেকে খুঁজে বের করা এবং সেটাকে আরেকটু ডিটেইল আমরা কি করব আমাদের ওন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে আমরা এক্সপ্লেইন করব।
বুঝতে পেরেছি স্যার।
Have you got it?
Yes sir.
So for example, incentive bonus সম্পর্কে আমরা জেনেছি যে এটা এত অ্যামাউন্টে বেশি এক্সিড করতে পারবে না, তাই না?
জি স্যার।
ডিসক্লোজড প্রফিটের এত পার্সেন্টে বেশি কি করতে পারবে না, এটা এক্সিড করতে পারবে না। বা এন্টারটেইনমেন্ট এক্সপেন্সটা আমাদেরকে কিভাবে কাউন্ট করতে হবে এটা সম্পর্কে ট্যাক্স স্ট্যান্ডার্ডে বলা আছে।
জি স্যার।
রাইট, ওকে। এখন আমি যখন ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল স্টেটমেন্টস এর নোটগুলো পড়ছি, ফর एग्जांपल আমার কোম্পানিটার ক্ষেত্রে ইনসেনটিভ বোনাস নাই, তো আমি কি ফোর্স করে ইনসেনটিভ বোনাসের নোট লিখতে পারবো?
নো স্যার।
সো আমার কোম্পানির ক্ষেত্রে যেটা অ্যাপ্লিকেবল হবে, ফর एग्जांपल ওখানে আছে ডিরেক্টরসদের একটা রেমুনারেশন দেওয়া আছে বা এরকম একটা আইটেম দেওয়া আছে যেটা সম্পর্কে ট্যাক্সে ফর एग्जांपल রেস্ট্রিকশন দেওয়া আছে। বা স্যাম্পল ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন, ক্যান ইউ রিকল যে আমরা স্যাম্পল ডিস্ট্রিবিউশনে পড়েছিলাম?
জি স্যার, স্যাম্পল
যে
ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন।
কি ধরনের কোম্পানির ক্ষেত্রে কত টার্নওভারে কত পার্সেন্টেজ ম্যাক্সিমাম স্যাম্পল ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন পারপাসে খরচ করতে পারবে। তো আমি যখন একটা ফার্মাসিউটিক্যাল কোম্পানি নেই, ইট ইজ ভেরি কমন যে আমরা একটা কি পাবো, স্যাম্পল ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন একটা আইটেম পাবো।
জি স্যার।
সো এই ক্ষেত্রে আমরা কি একটা চেক করতে পারবো না যে স্যাম্পল ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন যে অ্যামাউন্টে এক্সপেন্সে করা হয়েছে সেই অ্যামাউন্টটা কি ট্যাক্সে যে লিমিটটার কথা বলা হয়েছে ওই লিমিটের মধ্যে আছে নাকি ওই লিমিট এক্সিড করেছে?
জি স্যার,
পসিবল?
পসিবল স্যার।
সো এইভাবে আমরা একটু প্র্যাকটিস করব। Okay, that is just kind of refreshing our learning for company assessment so that you will have two tasks, two purposes served. একটা হচ্ছে আপনার এর সাথে কোম্পানি অ্যাসেসমেন্ট চ্যাপ্টারটা রিভিউ হয়ে যাবে, সাথে সাথে আপনার টার্ম পেপারের কাজটা কমপ্লিট হয়ে যাবে। ঠিক আছে?
স্যার এটা কি রিপোর্ট আকারে করতে হবে নাকি জাস্ট পার্ট এ যেভাবে করেছি স্টোরি আকারে সেভাবে
পার্ট
করে?
এ যেভাবে করেছেন পার্ট বি সেম ভাবে হবে। ঠিক আছে? আর যেগুলো ফর্মাল পার্ট হবে সেগুলোর ব্যাপারে আমি পরে বলবো।
ওকে স্যার। স্যার এটা জাস্ট কেস আকারে যে সলভ করতে হবে তাই না স্যার?
জি, একটা কেস জাস্ট ডেভেলপ করতে হবে। আমরা একটা কেস ডেভেলপ করেছি ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল এসএসসির বেসিসে, এখন আমরা আরেকটা কেস ডেভেলপ করব সেটা হচ্ছে কোম্পানি এসএসসির বেসিসে। ঠিক আছে?
ওকে স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Okay, thank you very much. Let me finish the session. If you do not have the follow-up question or any other question related to our discussion or related to anything. Okay, have a rest of the week. We'll meet on next Sunday. Sorry, next Saturday. Thank you.
স্যার এটার ডেডলাইন কবে স্যার?
Take what should I say? Not more than 20 days.
Okay, sir.